Let's get hyped. Welcome in to the Husker247 HypeCast. I am Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruns, Brian Christopherson, special guest Connor Happer as Nebraska leaves the bye week and is prepared to take on the Michigan State Spartans. We ran through Nebraska's history with Michigan State on the Husker247 podcast. This is a HypeCast. We do a lot of shows now. And there's pretty much every game they play is relatively interesting. The 2023 game probably the most boring of them. So it'll be something to see what happens here on Saturday as two defenses that may not be at their apex will attempt to corral two quarterbacks that are pretty dangerous and two teams that definitely need a win coming out of the bye week after losing before going into it. So let's just jump right into it. We will start on the offensive side of the ball, and we will start with our guest, Connor Happer. Connor, when you think about Nebraska's offense through the first four games of the season, is there anything that you would like to see look a little bit different besides obviously just not allowing Dylan Raiola to get ran over 47 times in the Michigan game?
Yeah.
Largely, I mean, it's how do you see this offense kind of evolving as we get into Big Ten play? That's a better phrased version of the same question.
Yeah, I think part of what they thanks for having me, by the way, guys. Good to see you all. I think part of what they were trying to figure out probably during the bye week is, all right, so if we don't feel like we can run it consistently or whatever, if that's the weaker part of what we do on offense, then what do we do to, make up for that, or how else can we replace those yards? And I think what you'll probably see is getting some, guys like Ja'Cory Barney, getting him going kind of closer to the line of scrimmage, some stuff that sort of like replaces the run game, whether it be the screen game or something like that. Ideally, you want to like get the general run game started, and there's some of that from the Michigan game that will obviously be better because they're just pretty good up front. But I think you'll see some creativity, maybe a little bit in the way that they're able to get their yardage, especially in the short yardage stuff. And then the rest of the passing game has been pretty smooth so far this year. So I think you stick with what you're doing there.
Brunts, this is a game where I think the expectation is Nebraska should be able to put up points. Michigan State's defense has struggled. What do we know about the Spartans? Where would you expect Nebraska to sort of attack this week, given Michigan State's issues and given what we know about Nebraska's offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can do it through the air. I think in their comments about Michigan State's defense, it was kind of what do they say? It looks like a Big Ten defense, which is kind of like the very nice kind of thing that you just say about somebody. Yeah. And I think
is that like when people ask me if I've been working out? Is that the sort of nice thing that people say?
What is it? The liar, whatever takes the attention away from your face. But I think they don't scare you much. Kind of watching them against USC. I mean, I think Nebraska can put up points. I think Nebraska can get the run game going a little bit in this one too. What we don't know is what the personnel is going to be. What are the tackles? What's the tackle spot going to be? Who's the big mystery running back that we haven't seen before, or that we're going to see something new in the run game? So lots of questions to be answered, but I do think this is a defense that Nebraska can get some things done against.
BC, I know when we did one of our Husker247 dailies before the Michigan game, we were trying to identify which wide receiver had the best chance of maybe going off. As you sort of size things up here, with what we know of Nebraska through four games, with what we've seen of those wide receivers, do you have a feel for who has maybe emerged as Dylan Raiola's go-to target here in the 2025 season?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty spread out. You would say Ja'Cory Barney because he leads the way in reception so far. He has 21, but Dane has, I just wrote the numbers. So Dane has 16, Luke has 16, Emmett has 16. So they're
you don't
right
have to
there.
apologize for an incredible recall, Brian. You can just lean into it.
No, I've been made fun
I
of.
gave him some grief about it this week.
I've been made fun of before for throwing like 5.1 to 7 yards per carry or something. Because I just wrote it. But yeah, and then Isaiah Hunter has 13 catches. So I kind of, since Arrowhead, Isaiah Hunter sort of has slid into the background a little bit more, and I could see him popping up this week. Dane Key, though, you could say the same thing. Like he was probably the most high profile, I think you would say, transfer addition, and he's had an okay start. He did have the 100-yard game against lesser competition, but I think you're kind of waiting for him to have that explosive, like big game against a team that's more your weight class. And so if I had to guess one person, I'll say Dane Key. Like I think he's a guy maybe you want to feed the rock a little bit more and sort of get that rolling as you get into this October and November gauntlet.
All right. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to move through this kind of quickly here on today's edition of the Husker247 HypeCast. So a little bit of a slight change here. And on the defensive side of the ball, Nebraska coming off of a game in which they just gave up yards after contact, yards before contact, just a lot of yards in the running game. And one of the areas where Nebraska struggled a little bit was containing a mobile quarterback. Happer, with what we know about Aidan Chiles, Michigan State's quarterback, are you concerned more about their ability to create with a kind of a running quarterback than you are sort of the rest of Michigan State's offense on its face?
I guess so, but I do think you have to worry about like the first part first. I mean, and the first part is, just defend him straight up as a quarterback. Like if he gets loose and beats you a couple of times, making a play, then I just think that's part of it. Now you want to limit that as much as possible. And, you go back to that Cincinnati game and a lot of what Sorsby was able to do, it was late game, like scramble situation, like
Running
it's time
around.
to just turn on the jets and go. And that's not necessarily the kind of scrambler or mover he is to me. They get him going on some design stuff and stuff like that. But I just think you take care of like the first thing first, without being too worried about what's going to happen after you miss the first tackle or, whatever happens after that. Is it a concern? Absolutely. But I do think Nebraska has shown pass defense wise that they're pretty solid. I at least believe it up to this point of the year. So you start there and if he makes a couple plays on you, that might be just a pill that you have to swallow.
Brunt's coming out of the bye week. There was, talk about just making plays and guys doing their job. What do you want to see from Nebraska's defense that will sort of at least make you feel a little bit better about the next 8 games ahead as they go through Big Ten play, coming off of sort of the performance they had against Michigan, but the opportunity to go into the bye and correct a few things?
Just better tackling, I think, would be a good sign. I mean, we've talked about it that anecdotally it seems like Nebraska is just not getting as many guys to the ball together as they have in the past. Kind of a sliding scale from 2023, a little less last year, a little less this year. I think that would be a good sign. And just not having to have guys like Vincent Shavers or Javen Wright be the only guy to make a stop or to avert a big play. So I think that's what I'd like to see. I think that would be really good coming out of the bye week. And that kind of gets to the question you just asked Happer about, how concerned are you about defending a mobile quarterback? Well, if you're tackling well, you're getting guys around the ball. It makes it a lot easier to kind of manage that. So I think that's what I'm looking for coming out of the bye. And for as much as, Nebraska actually goes good on good and they rep tackling, that should be something that you would hope as the season goes along, you see improvement in that area.
BC, it's going to be hard for Nebraska to maintain these sort of numbers that they have put up from a pass defense perspective. And they were aided a little bit in the Michigan game because of a few drops from Michigan's wide receivers. But again, it was another strong performance. And they largely kept the Michigan passing game in check. They have the best pass defense by most metrics in the country.
Yep.
Coming off of these 4 games. What is it that you feel like Nebraska does well on that end of things, and how can they sort of not necessarily sustain preventing less than 100 yards passing, because that seems unlikely, but how can they sustain playing at a high level on the defensive back end?
Well, I think it's actually pretty simple. I mean, if you go back to the spring, like even with these receivers at Nebraska that we've touted up and the newcomers, like you would hear John Butler say, I like how we're covering them man on man. Like he liked how they were charting that, and they were winning more than their share. And so I think there's just a lot of faith. Like, hey, if you want to go man with those guys, they're going to do their job, and you don't necessarily have to worry about it. I think you have to give a lot of credit. Sierra's obviously been good, and Sierra's been versatile. I think that deserves a hat tip. You know, he's at times has flipped in a nickel, and it sounds like they're going to be without Hartzog for a third straight game probably. And so that's not a small injury to have a veteran like that out, but you haven't even really noticed it. And I think Andrew Marshall has been a big addition. So they just have the right personnel there. And I think they communicate well on the back end, because a lot of those guys, even though Marshall's new, he's played a lot of college football. Sierra's adapted really well to being a Husker in his 2 years. And, you know, Buford, Singleton, all those guys, they just kind of know what the other guy's doing. And I think that's what you're seeing and how it comes off in the numbers.
Before we jump into the predictions and everything else, I just want to break out special teams for a second, and we'll throw it back to Connor Happer. How would you sort of assess how things have gone for Mike Eckler and his unit through the first 4 games, and how are you sort of feeling about special teams relative to cowering in fear every time Nebraska had to go to the third phase a year ago?
It's the thing that we have to mention, like in comparison to cowering in fear for all these years. Yeah, pretty good.
I think it needs to be said as often as possible that Nebraska's fan base went through the worst special teams that they ever could have witnessed a year ago. It's hard for me to imagine a worse special teams unit. It really is.
Yeah, it's been bad for a long time. Honestly, they all mix together. Like it's hard for me to single out one bad year over other bad years, but it's been bad for a while. So compared to that, I mean, it's just been like heaven. It's been great because nothing's gone terribly wrong really yet, outside of, missing a field goal, that sort of thing. So I think generally they've been fine. I don't know if they've really made plays yet like they want to. Barney had a good punt return in the Michigan game, I think, and set up a touchdown drive. So that's great. They need to do a little bit more of that. The punting has been good. Generally, the holding and snapping and the field goal kicking has been pretty solid as well. So, I think it's been fine. I don't think it's award winning yet, but that's a hell of a lot better, and it's been around here lately.
Yeah, no question about that. Let's get into some predictions. We'll get our pick to click. We'll get that to start with. We'll start with Michael Bruntz, who is going to have a good game on Saturday against Michigan State. I don't know what that noise is in the background, so if you're listening or watching, I have no idea. You're like me. I have no clue. Bruntz, do you know the noise?
Could be anything.
Is it me?
Sounded like it was you. You turn your mic on, it was you, but it's gone.
Yeah, there's a whoosh when your mic comes on.
Oh, that's how I breathe. I go whoosh before I answer.
Way to draw attention to it.
Yeah, thanks. I was trying to be coy about it. Ja'Cory Barney.
I didn't want people to think that they're whatever they're listening to or watching on was having some sort of issue.
I'll just stop breathing. It's fine. Ja'Cory Barney. He comes back off of a bye week. He's healthy. He has taken some shots this year. It seems like every time he catches a ball or a ball is thrown his way, it's like he's playing in the NFL in the 70s when it's just like you got like John Facenda narrating like this big like bone crushing hit when he's like making a catch. But I think they're going to find some stuff for him in the running game to help out a little bit. I know I think that's something that they can do to scheme up a little bit, maybe in the red zone. And I think he catches a touchdown pass in this one. So I'm going to say Ja'Cory Barney has a nice return from the bye week.
All right. Let's go to Brian Christopherson for the next one.
Dasan McCullough. I feel like this is going to be the October of Dasan. You know how we do that, like bye week? We did one where it's like, who's the best defender? Who was the best guy? I think when we do the second bye week thing on that, it's going to be McCullough. I feel like.
Who was your answer on the first one?
Desonctober.
Yes, exactly. We'll work on it. That's not bad. No, I think if you look at the last game, like I know he's got to be sturdy and help him out against the run, but he had 2 TFLs. He had the thing where he did the celebration where he kind of crawled. I kind of like that. So he's got a little swag to him. And I just think he's feeling more comfortable in that jack spot, and you're going to see him cause some more chaos plays. And goodness knows this defense needs some of that.
All right, I'm going to lean into the chaos. I was between three different people, and I had no rationale for any of it, and even less rationale for what I'm about to say. So take this analysis to the bank.
Amazing.
Andrew Marshall is going to have his best game as a Husker. He's going to walk away with an interception on Saturday. That's not an oddly specific prediction. That's a pick to click. Andrew Marshall, a couple pass breakups, an INT, a strong game for the Nebraska defensive back. Connor Happer, finish it up for us.
I like how we pick these guys, and like, honestly, I was thinking Ja'Cory could be an option for me. I wrote a few options down, like Deshaun McCullough. I could see him having a good day, all this stuff. Even though it's sort of random, we all come up with the same people. So give me Sierra Wright. They have a couple good wide receivers. I think Marsh and Kelly are pretty good. But like I said before, like I'm a believer in what Nebraska's doing in pass defense. BC talked about their ability to cover too. It probably gets overshadowed because it's been tough on the ground, or at least was tough on the ground against Michigan. But it's a big piece of what they're doing, and Sierra doesn't get thrown at a lot. I think they'll take their shots at with those two receivers against whoever he's lined up on, and I think Wright will make a couple plays. So we got both corners as an option, and McCullough. It sounds like a good day for the defense.
You wrote things down.
Yeah,
How much research did you do?
Yeah, I typed them. I guess I got a oddly specific prediction. I had to remember my overall score prediction too. Yeah.
Wow. Good for you.
I'm prepared.
Some of us don't even know what our score prediction is going to be.
Who's playing in this
Not
game?
naming names, but
sometimes I get asked questions and I'm like, I don't know. I guess I don't know whatever the score might be. So we're trying to not do that, I guess.
Wow, I like the preparation. I don't know that every guest does that, or certainly not every person who's here every week does that either. But we appreciate it. Thank you. Let's get into your oddly specific prediction. You have it written down. You're fired up to talk about it. I can tell. So let's get into it.
Okay. It involves. I mean, it could double as a pick to click or whatever. But Vincent Shavers has popped up a variety of different times this year, just with a few flash plays. And then he's had a couple kind of like, where was he plays as well. Whether he be out of position on defense, it's a little bit difficult on those linebackers. He does not yet have a sack this season. And I'm predicting that Vincent Shavers will get his first sack of the year early, first quarter of this game. Vince Shavers makes a splash play and gets a sack on Aidan Chiles as he's trying to escape pressure rolling to his right.
For extra credit, would you like to put a yardage number on it?
Yeah, I'm going to say he's going backwards a little bit. So let's go 7.
I like it. I will follow Happer. I have an oddly specific prediction. Ja'Cory Barney will score a touchdown on Saturday, like Michael Bruns said, as his pick to click. However, Ja'Cory Barney is going to score a running touchdown, as he is going to line up in the backfield as a running back, and Nebraska will just run a stretch play with him, and it will be blocked beautifully, and he will run it in from 12 yards out for a touchdown in the first half. Ja'Cory Barney, no receiving touchdowns, no returning touchdowns, but he will run in a touchdown as a running back. It will not be off of a motion. It will not be a sweep, a jet sweep, of anything like that. It won't be an option play. It is going to be a straight handoff to Ja'Cory Barney, who starts to play in the formation in the backfield on Saturday.
Wow.
BC.
Nebraska only has one interception. It's Malcolm Hartzog against Cincinnati. I'm right on that, aren't I?
It's an important one, though. They made it count.
Yeah, it did. But that leads me to this pick. Rex Guthrie, who played a lot of snaps against Michigan, is going to have a pick when a pressure is forced by another freshman, a true freshman, though, Cade Petchak, in Aidan Chiles' face. He overshoots it. Guthrie runs it back inside the 10 of the 7-yard line. Then there's kind of some anxious moments because it comes down to a 4th and goal at the 1, and they go for it, and everyone's like, oh, not this again. And Dylan, it's not a great play, but he ends up scrambling and diving into the end zone, sort of like John Elway against the Packers in that one Super Bowl.
Are you calling for a Dylan Raiola helicopter spin touchdown?
I mean, he's just going to kind of go over a linebacker. I don't know if he'll spin around the other way, so I shouldn't have described it like that. But Brunts is on here, so I wanted to kind of give him that memory.
Yeah, thank you.
This one's for John. So that Dylan's going to do that on 4th and goal at the 1 after the Rex Guthrie interception to the 7.
That is an incredible, oddly specific prediction because it started like defensively, but ends with Dylan Raiola doing a helicopter spin.
Parlay
With the red zone.
It's
some red zone.
same game parlay.
Oh
wow. Yeah. We're going to be doing some SGPs going forward in the HypeCast in future years. We're gonna incorporate that into the show. Good work, Brian. Brunts, what do you got?
I don't know if you guys are aware, but Saturday's matchup features a battle of two of the Big Ten's most intriguing punters. On Nebraska's side, you have Archie Wilson. He of the ambipedal, I believe, is what it is, with 2 feet, either foot. I forgot to whoosh before I breathed. Sorry. And then so far, he has only allowed 1 punt return for -1 yard through 4 games. On the other side, you have Michigan State's Ryan Eckley, who is among the better punters in the country. I think combined on Saturday, and winds gusting up to 20 miles an hour in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hot wind, very hot wind. We're going to see 7 combined punts land and be downed inside the 20-yard line, your opponent's 20-yard line, and none of them are going to be returned. They're all going to be downed, and they're all going to be inside the of those 7. You're not going to get any returns. So 7
Did
punts.
Did Corey know that he's not going to be returning any of them?
He's going to learn a lot in this podcast about what's going to happen to him on Saturday. But there's going to be 7 combined punts down within the 20-yard line, no returns on those punts.
Wow.
Ryan
This
Eckley,
has to be
Bigfoot.
the only podcast that covers Nebraska football that goes into detail about how many punts could be downed inside the 20. Nobody
7.
else would do it.
7.
Well done, Brunts. Well done. And people think you only talk about tight ends. You got punter depth too.
Yep.
Very
I'm a
versatile.
deep guy. Whoosh.
All right. Let's see what these score predictions are. Let's see if everybody I don't know if we're gonna have a clean sweep this week. We'll find out. We're gonna start with Brian Christopherson though.
With Brunts's thing there, what a scandal it'd be if we found out guys were throwing plays to match oddly specific predictions if that came out a year or 2 from now.
Like Marquise Watson Trent decides he's going to finally get a sack on the first passing play of a game just to give me a win on an oddly specific prediction.
Exactly.
Just because I slipped him an extra $15 when we ran into each other one time.
Yeah, let's not even suggest that. So I'll say Nebraska 34, Michigan State 24, which I believe is just a hair shy of the spread last I saw.
I think spread's 10.5
That's what I saw last. I haven't looked at it.
It got up to 12.5 yesterday at one point in time. I don't know if it's still there. We can look that up. Brunts, what do you got?
I've got Nebraska 33, Michigan State 27 in this one. I like Nebraska to be right around that number. I guess that's still technically a cover, depending on how much more it moves, but 33-27.
33-27. All right, Happer.
37-24. Nebraska, for the record. I think they're going to score some points in this game. Michigan State's defense is pretty vulnerable. Nebraska will give up their fair share too, but giving Nebraska by 13.
All right. I, before the year, predicted Nebraska would lose this game coming out of the bye after beating Michigan. They did not famously beat Michigan before going into the bye. Toyed with the idea of still having Nebraska lose this game, but I think their offense is going to be too much for Michigan State. And I also think Nebraska can put up some points coming out of the bye as well. Nebraska 41, Michigan State 28. I have the Huskers by 13 as well. So it is a clean sweep. Everybody has Nebraska. Whether that's going to be how it goes, we'll find out on Saturday. Connor Happer, where can the good people get more of your content?
Anywhere. I'm so many places, including here. I love you guys, by the way. But 1620 The Zone, 10-2. and the Locked On Nebraska podcast if you're into podcasts.
Yeah, well, and then you're just a random MC about town too.
You never
Someone
know.
could have an event, and Connor Happer could be hosting it. You never have any idea. He could be anywhere. Husker247 could be anywhere as well. It could be anywhere where you have the internet. Get to Husker247.com. Check out everything we have going on at the site. Great work from Brunts, BC. Occasionally good work from me as well. Big visit weekend. A lot of recruiting stuff going on for Nebraska. Good stuff from BC and Brunts previewing the matchup with Michigan State this weekend as well. So be sure to check all of that out. For our special guest, Connor Happer, for the regulars, Michael Brunts, Brian Christopherson, for me, Mike Schaefer, we'll catch you next time on the Husker 24/7 HypeCast.